Alright, in this video we're going to talk about functions and if statements. Alright, so let's start with functions. A function is basically a block of code or a block of statements that can be used repeatedly in a program. Alright, so we can create functions and then we can call them at any point. Okay, so let's do a really basic example. Okay, now to create a function you need to actually use the word function, and we're going to call this greet. Alright, then we want some parentheses and then some curly braces. Alright, the parentheses, this is for parameters, which I'll get into in a second, but in here is where you want to put the code to run when you call the greet function. Alright, so all this is going to do is echo out a string that says hello world. Okay, now if we run this, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to run because we haven't called it. Alright, now if we want to call it, we can say greet and our parentheses, and that's it. Alright, so if we save it, and now we get hello world. Alright, and let me just comment this out because I want to keep the actual code here for you guys. Alright, so now let's do the same function called greet, okay, except this time we want it to accept parameters. Alright, so this will be, let's say, name. Okay, so then what we want to do is echo out the text hello, and then we're going to concatenate on the name. Okay, so if we just run it like this, we're going to get this error, okay, or warning, which says missing argument 1 for greet. So it knows that it's supposed to take in an argument or a parameter, but there's not one there. Alright, so let's go ahead and just put in a string called Brad. Now make sure you use your quotes here, because if you don't, it's going to look for, well, it's just going to mess things up. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that and reload. And now we're getting hello Brad, alright, because that's what the function does. Now we're not limited to one parameter, one argument. So let's just grab that. And what we can do is let's put in greeting, and then we want a comma to separate them. Alright, so we have a greeting and a name, and then what we're going to do is we're going to change this to greeting, and then we'll concatenate right here a space. Alright, and then down here we're going to call greet, and let's say welcome, and then Brad. Okay, if we reload, we get welcome Brad. If we change this, we can say what's up. Okay, we change it, what's up Brad, and this stays the same. Okay, so it makes it a little bit more dynamic. Now we can also set default values. Alright, so let's say that someone passes in greet and then just what's up. Alright, if we reload that, we're getting missing argument 2. So if we want this to just be a general, well, actually, you know what? Yeah, no, this is okay. So if we want just a general value here, we can say name equals, and let's put in John. All right, now if we reload, and you can see that we get what's up John. Okay, but if we go back and put something in here, it's gonna take that. All right, so this is always gonna override whatever you have for the default value here. Now, in addition to user-defined functions, PHP comes, or PHP 5 has about something like 1,000 functions, which you can use. Like, for instance, there's a string to upper function that'll make everything uppercase. So we could use that in this example. Let's echo out, and then we'll say str to upper. Okay, and then we'll just wrap this whole thing, and we'll save and reload, and now everything is uppercase. Alright, so there's a whole bunch of functions that you can take a look at. I would suggest going to php.net. Alright, so that's going to be it for functions. Just very, very basic stuff, guys. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is if statements. Okay, so conditionals. So let's create a variable called num, and we'll set that to 10. All right, and then what we want to do is say if, and we want to pass in here a condition. We'll say if num is equal to 10. All right, now it's very important to understand that when you have a single equal sign, it is to assign something. Okay, we're assigning 10 to the num variable. A double equal sign is a comparison. All right, so we're saying if num is equal to 10. All right, and then we're just going to echo, whoops, correct. All right, and if we reload, we get correct. Okay. Now let's take a look at some other operators here. So we could also say if num is not equal to 10. All right, so a not equal is going to be an exclamation and then the equal sign. All right, so if we save that and reload, we're not getting anything because this is not true. If I change this to 101 and we reload, it's going to be correct because num is not equal to 10, num is 101. All right, so another thing we could do is we could say is num greater than 10. Okay, if num is greater than 10, then that's going to be correct, and it's still correct. If we say less than 10, we're not going to get anything. Okay, now if we want something to happen when this isn't correct, then we can use else. Okay, so we'll say else, and let's say echo, and we'll just echo out wrong. Okay, so let's save that and reload, and we're getting wrong because num is not less than 10. And of course we could compare variables, so this could be num2, and set that to 50. Okay, we'll have num1 and num2, and then we can just compare them like this. Oops. Alright, so we get wrong still because num1 is not less than num2. If I throw a 0 in there, make it 500, then it's going to be correct. Alright, now in addition to using if-else, you can also use an else-if. Alright, so for instance, let's change this to if num1 is equal to 40. Okay, and then we'll keep that at 101. All right, and obviously we're going to get wrong if we do this. Let's go ahead and say down here, we're going to add an else if and then a set of parentheses. All right, and then we'll say if num1 is equal to 50, and then we want correct. Okay, and then we want to tack on an additional else for all other possibilities. So that would be wrong. All right, if we save it, it's still going to be wrong. If we change this to 40 and save it, we get correct. If we change it to 50, save it, we still get correct. All right, so we're saying if it's 40 or 50. Now we could say the same thing in a different way using comparison operators. All right, so let me just let's comment this out. Oops. All right, and down here, and you can see that actually we'll just comment that out too. Let's just get rid of these. Okay. So now let's do num equals 50. All right, and we're going to say if, oops, I'm going to do this same thing, same type of logic. All right, so if num is equal to 50, and then we can also set an operator here for or, which is a double pipe characters. So or num is equal to 40. Okay, and then we'll do echo correct, And we can also put on an else here as well and say echo wrong. All right, if we save that, we're going to get correct. If we change 50 to 40, we also get correct. If we change it to 30, we're going to get it wrong. Now, in addition to ors, you can also do ands. So let's say num2 is equal to 20. All right, so what we can do if we change that to num1 is we'll say if num1 is equal to 30, and then if we want to do and, we want to use double ampersand. All right, and then we'll say num2. Let's keep it like that first. All right, so that's going to be wrong because even though this is true, this one's not, and they both have to be true. All right, so we'll change that to 20. Then we're going to get correct. All right, guys, that's going to do it for functions and conditionals, and I will see you in the next video.